Hello and welcome to the Dailies on Network Television, where we keep you updated with all the stories that are actually currently happening on the papers, especially in Nigeria. I am Stella Elisha Dasham. You can be part of the show by joining us via Facebook and YouTube. Drop your comment and your opinions concerning any of the stories that is of interest to you. I am Stella Elisha Dasham, and I'll be doing the program with Rachel Tansy. Good morning.
Good morning, Stella.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. And so today it happens that the United Nations is celebrating the World Water Day. I think this week tends to be one World Day after another. And, you know, I remember you and I were talking about the issue of safe drinking water and the fact that a number of people do not have access to water as they should be. And it happens that it's not just in Nigeria. According to study, about 2.2 billion people do not have access to safe drinking water. And then we will relate it down to the issue of the climate change and then a number of things that are actually affecting people getting access to water. And then what are government doing in their own respective responsibility or role to make sure that, you know what, every state and every country actually have access to water. And just like every other year, they do have a theme, and the theme for this year is water is peace, water is prosperity. And we know that water has a lot to do. Remember when we talk about the World Kidney Day, the importance of water to the kidney. And even when we were talking about the oral health, we also talked about the issue of water being important. And today happens to be the World Water Day. And it's very important in as much as we know that water is life. And what we know that basically the three essentials for any human being is air, food, and water. So you cannot say, give me food and don't give me water. Water is very, very essential. And I'm happy that, you know, a day like this is being marked so we could actually know the importance of water and then the fact that we need very good, safe drinking water. Right now, we know how expensive water is in the country. That is to say that the government needs to do something to come to the aid of Nigerians. So let's bring it back home to come to the aid of the, you know, the people, so that people can have water to drink, people can have water for basic needs and all of that. You remember the fire incident in Lagos where we saw Nima saying that because there was scarcity of water. So that is to say that we need to call the attention of the government to provide safe drinking water, and then anything that has to do with making sure that water is available, because we know that most time during war, the need for water is always on the increase because people definitely need. It will surprise somebody to say they need water and they don't need food, because they can actually keep just drinking water and then they keep going. But I'm hoping that when we have days like this, it doesn't just stop on a day, but then we see that this will raise an awareness for government, for sanitation, and for many other things, so that we can know how important water is and then what we need to do so that we can actually have access to water.
I can only imagine with climate change at the position where it is now. There was once a time that there wasn't this much concern about the climate or it having degraded to the level in which it is now. And still yet people were struggling to have access to good water or clean water. You need to watch some of this documentary on television and then you will know that you are still privileged regardless of how difficult it might be. And then I can only imagine now with what the world stands at when it comes to climate change and the situation, knowing that there's much drought than before, there's the water level are going low compared to where it should be. And then you just wonder, what is the way out? What is the solution? And you will literally see people having to move, most especially when we have people in this desert part of Africa and all of that, and you can't just help but wonder how are they surviving and how are they doing. But then I think it's a global issue, therefore it calls for global cooperation or call for partnership. Exactly. Global partnership and collaboration to make sure that, you know, water is available, because in some areas there is better privilege to water. We can say water problem in the urban area is the same as the rural area or the same at some part of the country and all of that. But what is the way forward? For me, I think water problem is beyond drilling boreholes. Is what are we doing about our ecosystem? and that is climate change precisely. What are we doing drastically? Because it doesn't matter if you dig, if there's no water, you will not find water. But when you do something to make sure that what is taking that water away is no longer taking that water away, is more important. And we've grown to the part where communities don't want to do anything. I grew up in a time where the community would join their hands and do something for the community in terms of water. It don't even have to always wait for politicians and all of that. And I'm looking forward to that wake-up call again, that people in the community will say, okay, what can we do about the water situation where we are, and to secure the future when it comes to accessibility of water. And learn all the different ways to purify water so that you'll be able to have access about it. Because yes, water is life. Water is more life than food. Because without water, there's no food. You can even live longer if you find yourself in a place that you are, I don't know the word to use, but with water, eating food and food without water, you're most likely to die quick than when you have water available. It's like that. So yes, just whatever it takes globally, within a community, within a country, everything it takes for us to just keep having water is important.
Well, we look forward to seeing what our government will do, because just like we rightly mentioned, the issue of climate, and then roughly more than half of the world presently, during half of the year, they do experience scarcity of water. And we know you made mention of, it's not about drilling the borehole, but then what can we do? Because right now it seems as if the water level keeps going low and low in some parts, and then when it comes to rain, we see that the level is a bit higher. That's why we have flooding in some parts. So we just hope that whatever the government will do, it's very important to put our hands together. And then I hope that just like we said during the World Kidney Day, to just try as much as possible to drink as much water as you can, so you can have a glowing skin, and then every organ of your body can function properly. Well, let's take a look at what the papers have for us this morning, and we will start with the Vanguard newspaper. On the Vanguard newspaper, Rachel will take us down through that paper.
The big story on the paper: killing of soldiers, Okama, women, children trapped in forest for 6 days. We have the writer saying neighboring communities refuse to accept Okama residents. Starvation looms in Ibomotunu and in Bayelsa over military siege. Residents can't farm or fish. Man abandons wife, escapes with 2 children. Abariwori warns traditional rulers against shielding suspects. Killing of 17 soldiers, attack on Nigeria's sovereignty. This is a statement from the federal government, and I disagree, because looking at what happened there and how the stories keep unfolding, let's stop making this. I mean, I know that it might sound offensive, but this was not a national issue. This was a communal casualty. I still stand on the fact that soldiers were not even supposed to be there.
Richard, it's not even communal. This is just a land dispute between 2 families.
I'm even trying to make it big.
Land dispute.
Soldiers are not supposed to be there. So let's not make it. I saw where the president said he's going to give them a national honor. They didn't go to Sambisa Forest. They were not on a mission to rescue Chibok girls or Dapchi girls, or the still over 280 pupils and students in Kaduna State that have been abducted, and it's 2 weeks gone and nothing. That's not what they went there to do. It's not a national issue. It's not. So let's not make it look like that. It's really sad what happened, and it shouldn't happen to our military men. However, let's not make it heroic while it's not, because I keep saying it, they were not supposed to be there in the first place. They are not. We can't have lieutenant colonels, captains and majors, general going to fight, to be in the midst of land dispute issue, and then we now try to make it look like they went to rescue people from the Sambisa forest. I don't like it. It's not an attack on Nigeria's sovereignty. This is not Cameroon attacking our soldiers at the border, or militants attacking our soldiers at the in Niger border, or the Niger Delta conflict with militants and all of that. This is not it. So it is not Nigerian sovereignty. I don't see it as that. And this is always my issue with the Nigerian government. The real things that you're supposed to make big, you downplay it. And the things that are not supposed to be big, you make it look big. The real issue out there concerning insecurity, you keep downplaying it. You're calling it a clash when it's an attack. And then the things that you're supposed to just let it slide, you're making it big and all of that, because it's even embarrassing on a lot of levels if we are to think deep concerning why our military will be there to settle land dispute and all of that. And you can't just help but wonder. So no, I won't sit down and hear the government of Nigeria say that it is an attack on Nigeria's sovereignty. It is absolutely not an attack on Nigeria's sovereignty.
Rachel, I would like to take a different angle. In as much as the federal government feel, of course, the life of every Nigerian is important. And the life of our security agencies, especially our army, is very important to the government. So if an attack to the soldier, I believe, yeah, it's still an attack to the sovereignty of Nigeria. But I'm looking at it from this point of view. Why are we not concerned about the women and the children that have been stuck in the forest without food, without water? Why is the government not doing something to make sure that, you know what, these innocent people in the forest are also well taken care of, in as much as we are still looking for the perpetrators or those who killed our soldiers? That is one. Secondly, Rachel, we have 5 days to pay the 1 billion naira, or else we lose, or we stand the risk of losing the over 200 students that were being kidnapped from Kaduna State. According to the terrorists, they're giving the government 20 days from March 7th. So by March 27th, Rachel, it's already 20 days gone. What is the government doing about that? I mean, yet it seems as if our peoples have been quiet for a long period of time. And I believe if the government was talking, definitely it will have been captured on the paper. So if the government feel that an attack to the Nigerian soldier is it's attack to the sovereignty of the country, what is the government doing to make sure that next time we do not have our soldiers, as sacred as they look, to be involved in things such as a land dispute that involve two families? In the first place, if we did not have our politicians, if we did not have our leaders using these soldiers like talks, this wouldn't have happened in the first place.
Themselves to be used? Now,
Rachel, we know the way the army operates. They operate based on order. And you and I are not yet aware of where did the order come from for such a high-ranking military person to be involved in such land dispute. Now, according to the paper, the past 2 days or so, we saw that one of the families is Flesher. So they have the power, they have the right. Now, what we're saying is the fact that, Rachel, it's important what you and I have been saying over the years or over the weeks or over the months, whenever we come to the issue of the fact that we have gotten to the point that certain people feel that they are above the law. Richard, in as much as that corner was there, you are also entitled to having somebody in that manner. I'm not the kind of person who loves making comparison, but let's take a look at some countries outside Nigeria, Richard. They have so much of security agency. You see, for example, one policeman is attached to 70 people. So he can actually protect them. But is that the same case in Nigeria? Of course not. So why should we have, just like you're saying, why should we have our army involving themselves in this? This was not a clash between Nigeria and Cameroon, just like you rightly mentioned. So if the government puts it in that way, fine. That is what the government feel. And we cannot fight the government in regards to that. But just like we always say, is the fact that, well, let's do the right thing. It pains me that these soldiers died in that manner. So it looks like they didn't die for a just cause. They didn't. Just like you said, I always say the fact that for a military person, dying during a war is a thing of pride. They will do that willingly because they signed up for it. But not in a manner such as this. So if the government feels it's an attack to the sovereignty, fine. But what is the government doing to make sure that this does not repeat itself again? What is the government doing to make sure that next time we will not see our policemen, even as civil as they look, getting involved in things that is not their business? Why didn't those two families actually resolve this thing? We know the issue of land is far beyond what the eye can see. Some people go as far as getting spiritual when it gets to things that have to do with the land. So I'm hoping that the government will not be too rash in taking decisions and doing things that will affect. Here we are saying, even the governor is saying, if the kings do not surrender perpetrators, the innocent people will eventually suffer for it. Why? Why can't we take care of the women, the children that are there? We saw when houses are being bombed, and we saw when the army is coming out to say that they did not do those reprisal attacks. So I'm hoping that let us be walking in the same direction as a country. If you set a law, that law should be abide by everybody, regardless of your position or what you stand in the country. So if they feel it's an attack to the sovereignty of the country, fine. But what are you doing so that the sovereignty of your country will not be attacked again next time? And I think that's the question we should ask the government, and we need answers to that as well.
Yeah. On Vanguard newspaper, still we have governors attack, killing, observe minute silence in honor of slain personnel. Kama killings could snowball into a bigger conflict. We have that statement coming from retired General Olariwaju. Independent probe of Delta killing will indict VIPs. Ex-DSS boss Jofford saying that. You can find details on page 5. Manufacturers' income tax falls 6.85% to 145 billion naira in the fourth quarter of 2023. Edo Guba, 72 hours to go, 10 parties nominate candidates. This is a statement from INEC. On subsidy removal, 1 billion litre of petrol smuggled out. A report from federal government. Over 15 killed, residents flee as herders attack Benue communities. Northern senators decry spate of kidnapping and violence in region. Australia announces tough visa rules for Nigerian students and others. Only 16 states submitted presentation. This is from NEC concerning state police. Details can be found on page 8. NLC leaders took workers' salaries during evasion. A statement from Abure. Abure, a pathological liar, says NLC. We have a column on page 17 by Owela Kemfa, and then Broome defends African Games long jump gold. I believe the name is Broome defends African Games long jump gold. You can find details on page 31. And then we have a picture story. Tinubu receives Meta delegation. From left to right, we have Mr. Idesido, Mr. Kojo, and then Global President Meta Platform, Sanik Greg, and President Bola Tinubu during the visit or by a delegation of Meta Platform International with President Tinubu at the presidential villa in Abuja. This happened yesterday, and that's all the news on Vanguard newspaper.
Richard, NLC and LC are just, I don't know. They've just decided to make a caricature of themselves. Now here we are beginning to see kind of one being open, Richard. Here we are having a brewery saying that there was a salary that was given to NLC. So right now, it's a matter of time more revelations will be revealed. Let's just watch and see how this whole story unfolds. On New Telegraph newspaper, Nigerian passengers to Heathrow to enjoy reduced airfare as UK aviation regulators orders airport to cut charges. More detail can be found in the paper. Easter Ramadan spending to push up March inflation, so you look forward to see what the inflation rate will be for March. Detail found on page 25. We want to lead Africa in digital tech, Tinubu tells Meta, which we saw in the previous paper during the visit yesterday in the presidential villa. And concerning the minimum wage, government asks the committee to make proposal data-driven, evidence-based. We hope they do that as soon as possible. FEC shares 1.152 trillion naira February revenue to federal government, states, and councils. And also on Do Guber, 7 just still for the PDP ticket. You can find more detail of that, and that will be happening soon during whoever they will choose. And on the issue of the slain soldiers, no going back until perpetrators are apprehended, coming from the GOC, where we're having the governor of the state caution traditional rulers against shielding suspects. More detail on page 3. Scouts flee home as herders attack Benue community. We hope the government is doing something, especially concerning the northern and the middle belt states that have been in constant attack coming from terrorists, herders, and all of that. More detail found on page 28. Pabio, thank you to Tinubu's surprise colleagues. You can find more detail on page 3. We will not allow NLC Ajero hijack LP. This is coming from Abure. You can find detail on page 2. Nigeria facing security and economic challenges, coming from the CNS. Say service chiefs will execute president's directive to the later. Northern senators decry mass abduction in region, demand action. National Security Tunji Ojo uncovers military and paramilitary synergy. Detailed on page 2 and 5. NEC OK $617 million IDICE program take off in states, and the FCT says state FCT owe the federal government over 1 trillion naira budget support facility, and then 16 states are ready for state police. So that is to say, mostly these 16 states are the ones who really need it. Let's look forward to seeing other states that will submit their presentation soon. We have a picture screen where we can see the governor of Lagos State. You can do well to grab the paper and read more detail of any story that is of interest to you.
On Daily Struggle newspaper, Ramadan, Dangote feeds 10,000 people daily in Kano. No reprisal over troops killing, coming from the military. 1.15 trillion naira FCT budget to transform Abuja and rural areas, coming from Wike. Education is a fundamental tool for development, says Zamfara governor. The big story: spate of killings, kidnappings in our region worrisome, coming from northern senators. 2 weeks after abducted Kaduna school children, staff yet to return. At the downside of the paper, federal government lists Kaduna-based publisher Mamu among 15 terrorism financiers. And that's all the news on Daily Struggle.
All right, let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. Land grabbers, speculators wreak havoc on citizens and investment. Here we can see from 1978 Land Use Act of the 1978 due for review. And despite laws like the Lagos Property Protection Law of 2016 and Ogun State prohibition of forcibly occupation of landed properties, armed robbery, kidnapping, cultism, and other anti-violence and related offences law, which has formulated in 2016, land grabbing remains a menace. And I think it's important that we have a review of that so that we can reduce all of this. Still on the Guardian newspaper, 2 students nabbed for faking down kidnap in Lagos State. More detail found on page 8. Population of displaced children hits 1.8 million. Detail found on page 3. Terrorists kill 6, injure many in Katsina State. How the Nigerian army will fish out killers of the 17 soldiers, coming from the GOC 6th Division. And CBN on the Agri Fund, we have Nexim pushes recovery as federal government moves to weed out fake farmers. Delta Assembly orders Obowore to investigate Okwama killing. Stop interfering, NLC doesn't own LP, Abure tells Achero. Stakeholders seek action against Nigerians' $10 billion yearly procurement fraud. Detail can be found also on page 18 of the business, and that's all on the Guardian newspaper.
On the Daily Times newspaper, the big story: don't shield suspect. Oborowori warns monarch, says those who committed the evil act must face the full wrath of the law. NIMET to deepen efforts towards building climate resilient society. 70% of bomb-making materials enter Nigeria under disguise. This is coming from Interior Minister. U.S.-Nigeria orders unveil food security strategic country plan. Jonathan leads West African elders to Senegal. This is on elections. You can find details on page 9. NEC endorses takeoff of $617 million IDICE program for Nigerians as Shetima promises to leave legacy of prosperity opportunity for Nigerians. Nigeria poised to lead Africa in digital technology, coming from President Tinubu. Details can be found on page 2. And we have pictures story where we can see the Lagos State Waste Management Authority workers cleaning up coastal roads, and this is under the estate in Lekki. This happened yesterday, and we hope to see more of that all over. I mean, Lagos is setting the pace, but we want to see more of that. We need this kind of cleanup everywhere in Nigeria, and that's all the news on the Daily Times newspaper.
On Nigerian News Direct, Smart City Development, Sanwo-Olu welcomes partnership with MasterCard, detail found on page 3. Gunmen seized Benue community for 3 days and killed 15. Soludo to commission phase 1 of completed Ibadan Circular Road, detail found on page 3. And still on the issue of the Delta killing, the innocent will be spared if you don't hide perpetrators, Oborobore tells traditional rulers. And the writer says, you can't kill our men and go scot-free, coming from the defense minister. We just hope that they will actually, do the right thing. The innocent shouldn't pay for the sins of some people. There are better ways that the government can actually fish out those who are behind it. And I hope that they will do the right thing. Still on the paper, Ondo Omoteku fuels 3 robbers. I take that. Ondo Omoteku fuels 3 robberies and kidnapping. You can find detail on page 21. Dump your daughters to avoid tears, presidency to FX speculators. EcoBank appoints top executive to drive the GTR strategy. Detail found in the paper. We have 2 pictures story. One is with the governor of Lagos State, and the other is with the chairman of Diaspora, Dabire. So you can find more detail of the stories are in the paper.
On the Matrix, dump your dollars to avoid tears. Naira will appreciate soon. Presidency tells forex speculators. Morocco's Jaid Jalal to officiate Nigeria versus Ghana. This is on the upcoming friendly. Tinubu reiterates Nigeria's commitment to financial reporting standards to unlock investment, economic development. My administration committed to adopting cutting-edge models for financial reporting and process standardization. You can start with the details on the front page. On Okoma's killing, federal government talks stop. We won't rest until all masterminds of the killings are apprehended. This is coming from Defense Minister. Troops vow not to leave creeks until culprits are caught, assures that troops will be strong, decisive, and professional. Aborigine warns monarchs against shielding suspects, says we need to fish out those involved. Confusion as foreign airlines challenge CBN to show evidence of FX backlog clearance, but we do remember that they said verified and cleared. So if you are not verified that you do own a forex backlog, you will not be paid. And we've been having this back and forth since last year when the CBN will say we've cleared it, other airlines will come out and say, but they made it clear that it is for the verified airlines. So you are probably one of those that are not verified by the Central Bank of Nigeria yet. You can find details on page 8. NEG endorses takeoff of $617 million IDICE program across states. Nigeria government received $4.92 billion from Shell in 2023, highest so far. We have an entertainment story. You can find details on page 19. Insecurity, clamor for state police heightens as NEC reveals 16 state governors back calls. Former NLC President Ayuba Waba fires back at Abure, says Congress owns labor. You can find details inside the paper, and that's all the news on the Matrix newspaper.
On the Punch newspaper, starting with the big story, 16 governors back state police submit reports to the federal government. The writer says federal government awaits 20 states report, says NEC presidency source insists all governors want state police. Incorporate state police into constitutional amendment, governor tells the National Assembly. More detail found on page 2. NLC wants minimum wage April, governors warn against plotted demand. You can find detail on page 3. State-owned federal government 1.7 trillion naira budget loan. Naira appreciates 1,382 naira to a dollar. Presidency caution speculators. And more people are looking forward to it keep dropping as far as even 700 or 800 naira. More detail found inside the paper. We are having smoke out illegal miners. Federal government tell the 2,200 new mining marshals, and I hope that they will do their job and not be bought by these illegal miners. Scores killed as bandits sack 9 Benue communities. Commuters fear Greek lock as construction resume on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. And on foreign trips, federal government may save over 5 billion naira quarterly. More detail can be found on page 19 of the Punch, and that's all on the Punch newspaper. But before we continue further, quite a number of stories for you to actually pick from and then to air your views, whether we're talking about the issue happening in Delta State or even concerning the 16 states that have submitted their own proposal for the state police, as we await other 26 states to do the same, and then we are looking forward to seeing more people doing it too. And so we'll take a break at this moment. When we come back, we'll continue the paper analysis. Please stay tuned with us.
Democracy is the theory that common people know what they want and deserve to get it good and hard. Join me every Friday, 7 p.m. on National Talk for analysis as well as in-depth perspective on issues as they unfold in and around Nigeria, as well as an opportunity to add your voice.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, it's still the Dailies. We have been looking at stories quite of interest, starting from Delta State down to other states, and also the issue of state policing is coming up on the paper. The issue of who will emerge as the governor in Edo and Ondo State is also on the front page of the paper. And then we've also seen that over 2,000 SD have been employed, talking about civil defense, and they have been called to actually go after illegal miners. These are many of the stories that what we have been looking at. So we hope to hear your views, your own contribution on any of the story that is of interest to you. I still have Rachel Tanza with me. Thank you so much, Rachel.
You're welcome, Fela.
All right, let's continue with the paper review, please. Let's go to the next paper.
On Nigerian Tribune, no respite for poultry farmers as product scarcity, rising costs persist. NACCIMA kicks over CBN's lift of FX access for importation of milk and dairy products, says new policy will discourage local production. El Rufai's visit to SDP stirs debate as ex-governor hosts NSA. Nigeria to grow FX reserves to $35 billion by end of March 2000. By the end of March, and this is from the Central Bank of Nigeria. And as it is now, the reserve is at $34 billion. Nigeria not owing foreign airlines $700 million. This is coming from Nanta. You can find details on page 6. First Bank Nigerian Holdings appoint 5 new directors as Atedola takes over. The big story, soldiers to remain in the creeks until. Delta governor conscious traditional rulers against shielding suspects. You can find details on page 2. Federal government unveils mines marshals to secure mining site. Let court decide who is a terrorist sponsor. Statement coming from Gumi. You can find details on page 25. Meta to introduce monetization features for Nigerian creators on Instagram in June. Omotekun foils robbery attempt in Ondo, arrest 1. 20 states failed to submit report on state police. 36 state FCTO, 1.7 trillion naira in budget support. 1 billion liters of petrol smuggled out to benefit those not paying tax. A report coming from the federal government of Nigeria. You can find details on page 25, picture story showing the delegation from Meta with the president. I believe this is in talks concerning introducing a monetization feature for Nigerian creators. And that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
On the Nation newspaper, governors give condition on the new minimum wage. Ability to pay is important, and everybody is agreeing because not every state have the ability. But we hope that governors will try their best with all of the fake allocation that comes into them to be able to improve the paying of their workers. APC direct members to withdraw court cases in 7 days. Ibadan Mon Oba Balungu as Makinde Ladoja visit family. I won't seek ticket to run for Ondo. Governor say Jagade. You can find more of that on page 5. Labour Party NLC squabble deepens. Abure invasion of secretariat shameful. Why Labour Party chairman should go by Waba. You can find more detail in the paper. No backing down on securities of the army. 17 arrested. Vows the GOC don't harbor criminals. Delta governor warned monarchs. Why we are investing in digital technology by Tinubu. You can find on page 7. Federal government saying that governor slowing down work on state police. 20 states get ultimatum to submit their report. And downside we have the BUA get the tax credit contract on the 60 kilometers Benin Lokoja road. You can find more detail of that on page 4. We still have the picture story talking about the mining marshals that were being newly inaugurated, and then they have to go after the illegal miners. We can see the Minister of Steel and Mines over there, and you can read more of the story inside the paper and any other story that is of interest to you.
On Daily Sun, Karu's continued detention is bad faith, a statement from his family. Governors insist on state police seek alteration of constitution to accommodate security arrangement. Northern Senators Forum demands resolute action to tackle kidnapping. 29 billion naira fraud. EFCC rearranges Yako, Son, and 2 others. Oboriwori cautions traditional rulers against shielding suspects. Obasanjo, Zodima, Eno, Sultan, others expected as item people honor Bishop Unoha at 60. Lassa fever. NCDC registers 20 deaths in 16 states. INEC deadline. 8 political parties risk non-fielding of candidates in Edo. Again, herdsmen kill over 15 in Benue, injure others, where helpless local government chairman cries out. Nigeria-US orders unveil food security strategic country plan. Details can be found on page 27. Terrorists abduct driver, 18 passengers in Katsina highway attack. 20 million Nigerians in diaspora remit $24 billion yearly. Details can be found on page 25. We have picture story from left to right. Chairman Senate Committee on Procurement and APC governorship candidate in Edo State. Monday, and then we have Chairman Senate Committee on Interior Adams Oshomole, and then Minister of Works David Umahi, and then Permanent Secretary Yakubu Adam during a meeting on the construction of local Benin Road in Abuja yesterday. Also, students of St. Saviour's School, Ikoyi, Lagos, representing the school at the upcoming Council British International School Games in Kenya. With them are the school's officials and sponsors. That's all the news on Daily Sun newspaper.
On the Leadership newspaper, how Airpaid's federal government circular crushed foreign airlines ticket, detailed on page 25. Naira gains 10% to 1,382 Naira to $1 after CBN cleared their forex backlog. And what's trending here, we have Tinubu bans aid from public funded trips. And then on the numbers, federal government, state, local government to share 10.143 trillion naira in 2023. We've seen that even that for February has also dropped. It has also been released, so you can find more detail of that story inside the paper. U.S. surgeons transplant pig kidney into human. You want to know how that was possible? You can read that detail on page 10 of the Leadership newspaper. Now, the big story here says 36% of Nigerian major bank CEOs are now women. We're seeing that today's bank CEO lineup for Zenith Bank, we know it's a woman. Just lately, we have the CEO that was being, and then even that of Fidelity Bank, FCMB, Unity Bank, and then also we have other banks as well, including GT and even Union Bank, that CEOs are actually women. Now, here we're seeing, will the trend hold? Because 5 years ago, it was just one. And now 10 years ago, we still one. And then 15 years, we're seeing 2, 20 years, one. So you can just keep looking at how it keeps, changing as the years go by. Federal government launches special force to protect mining sites. More detail found in the paper. And again, the diphtheria kills 4 children in Kano State. Apart from Lassa fever, I think it's important that they're talking about the medical sector should look into what is happening so we can curtail all of this illness before they get out of hand. And that's all on the Friday Leadership newspaper.
On Blueprint, white judges must not decide winners of election. Coming from Mutfang and Falana. Nigeria's turbulent challenges surmountable, Idris assures. First Bank Nigerian Holdings appoints Adeyo Sankar, 3 others as directors. United World Wrestling ranks Nigeria's Adekunroye #1 in 57 kg category. You can find details on page 31. The big story, 16 states submit state police proposal to NEC. Rate of response not impressive. Coming from Vice President Shetima. Killing, kidnapping in our region worrisome. CBN fertilizer will go to real farmers, not portfolio farmers. Some governors intellectually lazy need capacity screening. Statement from Okotete. You can start with the details on the front page. Expert calls for review of 1.2 billion naira metering contract award. IPI Nigeria demands release of first news editor Olatunji abducted by soldiers. ITUC Africa demands debt relief for African nations. ACF urges Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali to remain in ECOWAS. You can find details on page 6, and these are the major stories on Blueprint newspaper.
On this same newspaper, federal government to Meta, Nigeria ready with gifted youth to lead Africa in digital technology vision. New features coming on Instagram that will allow Nigerian creators to monetize their content, says Niclick. So we are happy so we can actually make some, money from the content we create on Instagram especially. Senator Aburo Innovation Lab trains over 1,670 youths on digital and AI skills. More detail found in the paper. Okonjo-Iweala heartbreaking kids. I take that. Okonjo-Iweala, we have heartbreaking kids are still being kidnapped 10 years after Chibok, and we hope something will be done about that. Still on the issue of Delta State, where the governor told traditional rulers, if you shield criminals, you are inviting trouble. The writer said, we won't rest until we arrest killers of our men, recover our weapons, GOC vows. Says through recovery operation in Okwama, Army will make sure no one ever attacks it again. More detail found in the paper. Coming from the president, those alleged malicious embellishment of budget didn't understand the arithmetic. With the writer says nation's security economic challenges over soon. Confident problems can defeat Nigeria. NEC disclosed FCT states owing the federal government 1.7 trillion naira for budget support facility. Shetima boasts the government will leave legacy of prosperity and opportunity for all. And that's all in this day newspaper.
On Nature News newspaper, the big story. Burkina Faso, Egypt, DR Congo among top 10 most polluted countries. This is a report from IQ Air. Asia top world on clean air ranking for 2023. Countries where average PM 2.5 concentration micrograms per cubic meter exceeded World Health Organization guideline 7 to 10 times in 2023. So we can see Bangladesh topping, Pakistan following, India and then we have Uzbekistan, Burkina Faso, Iraq, United Arab Emirates, Nepal, Egypt, DR Congo, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Indonesia, and then Rwanda. Kidnappers abduct poultry farmer in Ogun State. How failed erosion project push Obogoro community in Bayelsa to the ocean. We have an exclusive. Illegal mining activities flourish on OAU land. Lagos State takes firm stand against unauthorized excavation by Discos. Details can be found on page 7. World Water Day 2024 focuses on water for peace. NGO raises concern over government appeal of GMOs. We have a nature care column on page 15. Maintain your young looks with jasmine plant. On Miami Open, Andy Murray beats Matteo Berrettini. Jack Draper also true. You can find details on page 21. And that's all the news on Nature News.
On Business Day newspaper, tide turns for Naira, but foreign investors want more. Convertibility risks spark foreigners from local auction. Data found in the paper. 5 ways to boost intra-African trade for prosperity. You can find how that will happen on page 21. 50 billion naira monthly diesel cost threaten Nigerians' communication backbone. Over 5 Nigerians kidnapped daily as the pledge spread. More detail of that story can be found in the paper, and that's all on Business Day newspaper.
On Punch Sport Extra, the big story, Benjamin Tanimu exclusive. Honestly, I didn't think my invitation to the Super Eagle was going to be this soon. My football story from Benin to Eagles. WBC mandate Joshua to fight Fury versus Usyk winner. Haaland, Ali's injury fears. Liverpool get Alonso boost. Arsenal United interested in 120 million euros Rodrigo. Chelsea risks severe points deduction. Eagles Black Star clash in Marrakech. This is Ghana versus Nigeria friendly. And then at the downside of the paper, we have 8 Nigerian boxers reach African Games final. Powerlifters win 3 gold in Egypt. Details can be found on page 2. Tough Olympics group await Falcons and Banyana. And then we have Brume retains long jump title, and we have Ochonogo wins bronze. How Ebunike inspired Okezi to African Games gold. This is all brought on the African Games. You can find details inside the paper, and that's all the news on Sponge Sports Extra.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for doing
You're
this
welcome,
with me.
Sally.
Thank you to our viewers, thank you to our supporters and the crew members for making this program a success. Until we come your way next week, do have a great day ahead.